We begin with the annual conservative revival known as CPAC. This year, a big testing ground for the Republicans who would like to be your next president. Jeb Bush came knowing there would be boos because of his positions on education and immigration, positions Jeb Bush insists are for the best.
The simple fact is there is no plan to deport 11 million people. We should give them a path to legal status where they work, where they don't receive government benefits, where they don't break the law, where they learn English, and where they make a contribution to our society. That's what we need to be focused on.
As you might have been able to figure out listening to that, to most people in the audience, Governor Bush's position equals amnesty. But the governor stood his ground. Jonathan Martin, let's look at the CPAC straw poll results. This is relatively meaningless, but Rand Paul wins. No laughing aloud. Rand Paul wins with 26%. Scott Walker, the Wisconsin governor, 21. Ted Cruz at 12. Dr. Ben Carson at 11. Jeb Bush at 8. Jeb Bush came in, I guess, with a lot to gain and maybe something to lose. How do you rate this event and the winners and the losers?
I saw Jeb Bush speak twice earlier last month, a sort of staid policy luncheon addresses. He was far more comfortable in a much more hostile environment at CPAC than he was among a bunch of business suit-wearing downtown business guys. And I thought he had a pretty confident performance. I think he was clearly animated. He recognized that he had to sort of stand and deliver. He knew that all eyes were going to be on him. I think he passed the test. How much does it matter in the long run? Not a lot. John Ward, a colleague of ours, had a pretty good point. The best news coming out of this for Jeb, he probably didn't say anything that is going to hurt him long run in either the primary or the general. But it was shrewd on the part of his people, though, to bus in supporters, right, because I think the sound of the boos around him, if he had not brought in his people, would have been a bigger story coming out of this. But you heard in that clip that you just played, there were a lot of cheers there, too. Those weren't necessarily organic cheers about the importance of not deporting people. It was cheers from his supporters.
But one of the questions about Jeb Bush has been so long since he ran. Could he go into an event like that? How was he going to stand up in the Republican debates? He did have energy and passion.
Right, yeah, on that test, I think he definitely passed. What was interesting to me was how much this is going, the Jeb Bush candidacy is going to be a test of where the Republican Party is. Mitt Romney, of course, on the immigration issue, veered hard to the right to defeat Texas Senator Rick Perry in the primary. He couldn't recover from that in the general. He lost Latino voters by a huge margin. I think Obama won more than 70% of the vote. So Jeb Bush seems to be taking a really different approach. He's going to stick with his position on immigration. Sure, he's saying we have to secure the border first, but he's saying this is something the party has to do. And whether his party, and certainly the base of his party, is willing to elect him and bring him through the primary process despite that is a really interesting test about the future of the Republican Party and where it's going.
I thought that immigration moment was his best because while, yes, most of the people cheering had been bussed in from K Street to be there and didn't bother to vote in the straw poll before they left,
Yeah, right.
Heads didn't explode. Nobody else really got up and left. I mean, he was telling them something that is true, that there is no way that you can physically remove 12 million people from the country. And I think what he's trying to say to Republicans is, I understand your frustration. I know we got to deal with this, but that's not the way to deal with it. And we've got to be a little more practical. Throughout his speech, he said, we've got to come up with real solutions. And I think people walking away said, it wasn't exactly what I wanted to hear, but at the same time...
And he showed a bit of a temper, snapping at a Washington Post reporter.
Right,
that won't hurt him with the conservative base.
But I thought overall his demeanor was very good. Sometimes I think of him as sort of the Al Gore of GOP politics, because sometimes he seems sort of exasperated. You feel like he wants to sigh, and it's sort of beneath him, the things he has to do. But I thought he was funny. He was very, very comfortable. And as you said in those previous speeches, even in the Q&A, he was a bit, sort of diffident. I also thought, as you said before, Sean Hannity, who expected him to kind of treat him with, in some ways, kid gloves. He gave him some openings and gave him a chance to talk about his conservative record in Florida.
Yeah, let's not pretend this was some kind of a Sister Souljah moment where Jeb went in and spoke truth to power. He stuck to his guns on Common Core and immigration, and he definitely sounded different than most of the folks before him who were just tossing out big old prime ribs of red meat.
Yeah.
But he also spent a lot of time talking about his record as a Florida governor, which is a very conservative record. So it's not like he's sort of trying to run as some kind of a latter-day Nelson Rockefeller.